turn us on. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the County Commissioners. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first thing on our agenda is a letter of support for the Advanced Colorado Capital Fund grant application. And is this is all tie-in with the noxious weed stuff, or is this actually two separate items?
Two separate items.
Okay, so
So this is
ahead,
come from IT. This is pretty short and simple. It's for Clear Networks, and basically what they're needing this support or letter of support is it helps with their CPF grant funding, and it helps improve their standing when they apply for funding if we sign a letter of support. There's no financial ramifications to the county, and the city's going to try to get this signed next week so that they can get it forwarded out. And it's for last mile funding for broadband.
and it's just for the unserved or underserved areas, right? Which is what he
Correct.
was talking about
Correct.
last. Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Questions, gentlemen? Ian?
No, I don't really have anything to add.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll put this on the agenda for tomorrow, and we'll go from there. All right, that was quick and easy. Second, we have a Noxious Weed Advisory Board update, and we have a few members of the weed board, along with our noxious weed lady. So with that, Mr. Miles, I will let you start.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Steve Miles, and I'm on the Weed Advisory Board, and I've got Joe Bruner here and Eddie Lewis, and the other three are sitting on combines trying to beat the storm. And we're here just to kind of give you sort of our annual update. I think it's important to kind of get a face to who the board is. And I hope you've had a chance to read through the letter that we made up. And I kind of think it's like every year we need to sort of touch base on this. You know, because it's really important to us, and I think the program is real important for the county. It's a winning program for the county. And if you've driven anywhere through Archuleta County or La Plata County, you've noticed that they can't hold a candle to what we've done. You know, their programs have kind of fallen by the wayside, I think, and ours is really an exemplary program. It's probably one of the best in the state. You know, and that's why Bonnie was awarded Weed Manager of the Year last year. To her credit, you know, she's very passionate about, you know, the program and what she's done, and she's passionate about the impact it has on the county itself. You know, the weed issue is not just an agricultural issue. It has to do with our real estate, our property values, our land stewardship. And it's one of those programs that you invest a lot of time and money in, and very quickly you can go backwards. I don't need to dwell on it. I've been on the board for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and have watched the other counties, you know, go through cycles, and we've gone through cycles of more activity, less activity, and right now we're really on an upswing. Bonnie has put a lot of effort into grant writing and getting monies from other sources to match, you know, what the county's input is, and also, you know, initiating new programs. You know, the Russian olive and tamarisk program is really successful and is having an impact. And she's written I think it was over $1 million worth of grants in the last 10 years.
5 years.
5 years, money that's been brought into the county. You know, it's not just wages, but it's also, you know, reimbursing property owners for their input. And I think, you know, you hear complaints, you know, and I think the complaints is probably a good sign, because that means we're doing something. If you're not getting complaints from people, then you're not being active enough. And I think, you know, by addressing the impact it has, and by communicating with the landowners, I think we've had a lot of success.
I'm going to chime in real quick. The complaints, to be specific, are complaints about noxious weeds. They're complaining they're seeing noxious weeds. They're complaining their neighbor has noxious weeds. They're not complaining about what the department is doing that I see. A vast majority of the complaints are people who are understanding the impacts of noxious weeds and who are actually seeing the impact it's having on their land and the land around them.
Yeah, like, you know, for example, like the backpack loaner program. It seems small and insignificant for $10 to loan out a backpack with the chemical to a landowner to take care of their whitetop or their Russian knapweed or something. It's, that program's doubled almost every year. And for $10, it's an easy way for people to take care of, you know, a small patch. Obviously, when you've got, you know, larger patches, we've got 2 applicators here to deal with it. But, you know, on the small acreage things, it's an ideal way to do it. They can't, you can't justify going out and spending $250, $300 to buy 1.5 gallons of chemical when you only need a few ounces.
Well, I'm thinking about, sorry to interrupt you again. A lot of times there's misuse of herbicides too. If they have a small patch of weeds, they don't really understand how to manage it. They'll go get glyphosate and they'll kill their entire grass yard. So by utilizing this backpack loaner program, they're actually lessening the misuse of herbicide. They're using it correctly. We're training them how to do it. So it's actually correcting a lot of problems. Sorry to chime in.
No,
I was just
I'm
thinking
glad
about that.
you did, because it's, you know, and I know Bonnie's been giving you updates throughout the year, but I think it's important to recognize the impact of it. I think there were 250, 230 people, I think, this year.
For the backpack sprayers, yeah, at
Yeah,
least.
that have, you know, participated in this. And it's, you know, we're making real headway on some of this. You know, by Bonnie's statistics, she's been going around mapping, we've actually decreased some of the acreage on some of the, like Canada thistle, and eliminated the Mediterranean sage, you know, gotten ahead of, you know, some of the new Dyerswood, newer,
Star thistle,
yeah,
the incoming weeds
incoming
around
weeds.
us, yeah.
And we've got to stay on top of it, because if we slack on it, all of a sudden it's taken over. And like I say, I'm sure if you've driven to Pagosa Springs or down the Hesperus Highway or up towards Purgatory, you've seen, you know, the weed problems. You know, it's real visible. And I mean, the CDOT main coordinator came to one of our meetings, and he says that, yeah, Montezuma County is way ahead of everybody else. You've got something to really be proud of, and we want to just keep that going. And you know, the basis behind the weed program is the cost share money. You know, the $20,000 that the county, you know, puts into it. Bonnie also, this year will have, I think, about $50,000 because of matching that money with other monies. You know, many of the grant sources want to see a match. They want to see hard cash match. And if we eliminate some of that stuff, we're not only eliminating, you know, the financial input from the county, but we're also hindering, you know, the grant possibilities. And so, you know, I really encourage that, you know, we keep that cost share program at its current level. You know, the problem with success is it breeds, you know, more need. And that's kind of where we're at. You know, ideally,
More need with less funding.
more need, yeah, do more with
And
less.
that's
Well,
the issue that we face.
And, you know, ideally, you know, Bonnie could use a full-time administrative assistant. Currently, it's a part-time, just to help keep up with the phone calls. I mean, there's 400, 500 phone calls a month.
And it increases every year, which
Yeah.
proves that we are being successful in getting the word out with our public awareness.
And so I guess my point is consider the impact of decreasing the funding for it. It's, you know, we've got a huge investment that have been made over the years, and very quickly we could lose that investment if we don't at least maintain where we're at. Ideally, you know, we need to go forward, and Bonnie, like I say, has been very successful at the grant writing, and, you know, continue with it, and the board's very supportive of all that. And so that's what's kind of gotten us to this point. And so I really encourage the county commissioners, all of you, to, you know, support the noxious weed program. And we need your support vocally also. You know, you guys can really help us out by, you know, encouraging the landowners to participate in the program. I mean, last year with the cost share, I think there were 200 and some people that we weren't able to reimburse on the cost share. You know, we would run out of money. But I think the vocal support to the program is really important. And I think it just helps maintain, you know, the quality of life that we've got here. And it, like I say, it's not just the farming, it's the real estate. It's, you know, it's part of our economy. It, you know, is what brings people here to spend money, is by having an attractive place with good land stewardship. Do you have anything you want to add, Eddie?
Probably do. I've been on this board, well,
It's a lifelong board,
it's a
so
lifelong,
everybody who's on this board
okay.
will be on it till
You
they
guys know Ron
die.
Lanier? Did you know him? The original county weed coordinator here?
Ron?
Yeah, Lanier. Okay, he's the one that put the program in place. I bought the business from him in '97, so I've been on the board ever since, mostly in an advisory role, saying what to use, when to use, things like that. One of the things on there, on the history, is I also was a contractor for La Plata County. I did their roadside program for about 7 years. And I saw them go through the process of putting a enforcement plan in place. And when they did it, they stripped all of their cost share funding out. And that did not work. And now they've gone to the opposite way. They have a fellow in there that's running it that's anti-chemical, so he does not promote using chemicals at all. That's why you can go through the county and see what it's like. You can go over and talk to Tom Campbell at Basin Co-op and get the full story on it. He knows. And he works both counties. He supplies chemicals both places. And so a lot of the ag community is fairly upset over there, especially you go down Hesperus area. It's just eaten up with spotted knapweed. That's one of our biggest priorities, is to keep the spotted knapweed out of this country, and especially out of the high country.
It's on our A list, and so we only have a handful of it, maybe 100 acres or something, and then you drive down Hesperus to Farmington, and there's thousands of acres.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit, this is right next to our county where we're
And
trying to eradicate
it is coming into the high country, like from Mancus and some from the Norwood side. And we're trying to keep it beat back out. Same thing with hound's tongue. There's a few weeds that are really detrimental to our ranching community if it really gets going up there. So we're trying to keep the seed source out of the lower valley from dragging it back up into the Forest Service permits. That's one of our things that we're really working at. One of the areas that we are losing the battle on is white top. And probably back about 20 years ago when I was working the Norwood area on the Uncompahgre Plateau, I'd go through Norwood and it was just eaten up with whitetop, and I thought, man, I hope we never have that problem. Well, we do. We're not as bad as they were, but we're getting there. And so we're trying a number of things, trying to be different chemicals, different timing, just trying to stay after it. All we can do is just kind of keep it beat back, try to keep it out of our farm ground as best we can. I mean, it invades right into our alfalfa crops and things like that. So it's a major concern. We don't have any answers on that. Just try to keep working at it. So, you know, as far as enforcement, I said that the only way I would do an enforcement program over here was if we kept the cost share program and increased it, because I don't like unfunded government mandates. Simple as that. And
Which is what this whole program is. This whole program is mandated from the state that we have a noxious weed program.
Correct.
However, it's not funded,
that's correct.
which is extremely difficult to us. Trust me, you guys know me, and I'm the biggest
Yep.
weed hater in the county.
Yeah.
I hate them. I spray them all the time. Well, I don't spray them. You guys spray them for me.
Yes.
However,
Mm-hmm.
the reason programs fail, in my opinion, is because the state creates all of these great ideas, but then they don't fund anything.
That's correct.
So as we start falling behind with financial income into the county, the statute says you only have to provide the program, and that's all you have to do, which I get what you're saying, Steve. We've stepped it up to a level that is superior to La Plata, Archuleta, so on and so forth. And we have been very vocal. I think, well, I can tell you that like I said, I'm the biggest weed hater in the world, and I spray everything all the time. But it also comes down to, you know, I looked at your suggestions, and I didn't want to cut you off, Eddie, but I'm
No.
just going to go ahead.
Mhm.
You know, this is asking for another 2 FTEs on the suggestions, which is tough. Adding FTEs is tough for us. We are vocal about it. But my question to you all is why is it so difficult to get good stewardship of our ground when people are here that know that stewardship is part of owning the ground? Why do we struggle with that? I mean, do you have any ideas?
Jim, there's so many of them that aren't here.
They gotta listen.
There's so many of them that aren't here. Absentee, I mean, there's a ton of them. And this is one of the things they're gonna get into, a letter. What do you call it, Bonnie? The letter that you send out?
The notification letter?
Yeah. Even getting a hold of these people, they have no idea. It's an education thing. They don't know. She has a hard time getting a hold of them. Yeah, the people that are around here and kind of see it, the more they get to know about it, it's not a problem. But there's a lot that it is a big problem because we can't get a hold, or she can't get a hold of them. You know, they don't even live here.
So that's your second bullet point on here, is to reinstate this certified letter. So I guess I'm a little confused, Bonnie. We never disinstated that. We asked to at least give people a phone call, because a lot of times that is just as effective as a letter up front. But I don't think we ever said to stop sending certified letters. Am I
The
incorrect?
requirement that I got from you guys was either make physical contact, go to their house, knock on their door, try to make contact, or get a hold of them on the phone. I don't have time to do either right now. Therefore, no certified letters were sent out, is what it came down to. Initially, before we got that in place, I would just automatically send a certified letter if they have not been responding to the notification letters and if we've seen a problem on their property for multiple years. So automatically that would just go sent out. So we might want to make that protocol go back into place, but then before I request a right of entry, squeeze in the effort to get a hold of them from a phone number, or try to make contact at their property. But even getting a phone number is hard because we don't take phone numbers in our systems when we're getting that information down. I'll go on whitepages.com to try to get phone numbers. I'll ask around. but it's time consuming.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that, you know, on the issue of contacting people, the vast majority of the people, once they become aware of their problem, are very cooperative. You know, we have a lack of applicators. I mean, these guys are working themselves to death. And this county could use twice as many applicators. There's enough demand for that. There's just nobody there to fill the slot.
Mhm.
The ones we have are old and slow, so.
Yeah, that's their problem.
But you're constant,
Yeah.
so that's
But
great.
I think, you know, our education thing, we need to up our education thing, and I don't think that's really gonna be much of a financial burden at all. I know Bonnie last spring started some stuff on Facebook, and a lot of people commented to me is, oh, that's what that is. And I think there's some of the social media things we can do to help with the awareness. But again, we've got to stand behind what we're doing. And if we can't back up and say, okay, we can help you with a backpack sprayer program, or we can, you know, help with chemical suggestions, we can do these things, then we're just like the unfunded mandate.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's the way to handle it. I think we need to, you know, continue our education thing, and for the people that we can contact, are able to contact, we've got really positive responses. But like you say, the absentee second home landowners, you know, they're unaware of it too. And I think once we can get a hold of them, I think we can get the cooperation. But it's just more difficult with cell phones. There is no phone book. with
So
cell
I
phone
guess I'm
books.
gonna go back to that bullet point, Bonnie, and I'll speak for myself, obviously not the board, but I still, the certified letters are still fine to be being sent out. I think the request was, if you can get a hold of them, sometimes it's better. I look at it this way: I would rather get a phone call from somebody that says, "Hey, you've got an issue," than I get a phone or I get a letter from an attorney, which is basically coming from the government. It's the same thing. That's the way they look at it. Those are the complaints that we hear or that I hear on the other side. You guys don't hear the same complaints that we hear. And it's okay. It's just that we're trying to take care of this weed program. So I don't think we ever said not to send the certified letters. And I think it's okay to send the certified
I
letters
would
if you can.
reread the management plan that was approved, because I think that's a requirement now before any enforcement letter is sent out, certified enforcement. And I think once we do send the certified, at least in the past, that's what really gets people's attention, and at that point, they finally call me,
Okay.
so I can have a phone number. But I guess we can revisit that just to kind of make sure that we're on the same page, because that's the page I was at. I don't have time to call them or
And that's fine.
knock on their
I'm just,
door, which I
Okay.
don't think I'd feel comfortable doing anyways, but we can revisit that.
okay.
Bonnie,
All right.
what was the total amount of cost share money spent last year? Do you know that?
Our budget was 40,000. We spent all 40,000, and then I had additional 150 to 200 applicants that we were not able to reimburse because we didn't have enough funding. So that's why this year we got additional grant money to have a budget of 50,000 to try to help reimburse more applications coming in.
Where do we stand as far as your last meeting with Senator Simpson and, because we've been turned down now twice for our CDS, right? Congressionally directed spending
Yes.
last year and this
Yep.
year. We've been turned down twice. So they don't care about it at all, basically is what they're telling us. We've met with them. We've met with Naomi Dobbs, with Bobert's office. We've met with Cleve. So we're trying to attack this from the federal and the state levels to say, look, you guys are putting these programs out here. We're trying to do the very best we can, but you've got to support them too. So we're working on that. Well, how did your last meeting go? I know you had to go to Grand Junction, I think you said, and do your presentation up there.
I went to Alamosa,
Or Alamosa.
and we had the Water Legislative Committee there. I need a follow up with Senator Simpson on maybe any kind of outcomes. But I guess where I think that we're standing is where you have a problem and where you have the most public cry for that problem is where they're going to respond. So I feel like if we had more awareness of the noxious weeds specifically, and we had more people standing up and be like, hey, this is a problem, we need to get this addressed, we need to get it funded, at that point, I feel like they'll listen a little better. Because I don't feel like many people just listen to Bonnie crying about noxious weeds. I think it needs to be more. And that's why we need more of a public awareness. We need more of your voices. We need more voices than my voice to raise the situation.
So there is a group of us at CCI that have brought this up several times. And we bring it up every legislative session, and we'll bring it up again. It seems to, at the state level, fall on deaf ears all the time.
We'd be outnumbered.
Because a lot of people, like you said, in La Plata County, they don't like chemicals. They really don't like chemicals. So it's, what is the balance? I don't know.
And another
I'm
problem is the CDA, Colorado Department of Agriculture. They're the ones that govern this act, but they're legally not able to lobby for more money. So they're not able to speak up and be like, hey, we need more funding to make this, a functional act, which I think is a problem too. So if they're not allowed to speak up, the people that are actually seeing the problem, dealing with the problem, nobody's being heard about the situation. Does that make sense? I think just like the county, we're not able to lobby and talk about a sales tax. CDA is not able to lobby and talk about funding for them. I think it's a legal issue. I don't know, but that's just what I was told.
That should be budgetary in the state with the Department of Agriculture.
They can argue for their own budget.
Yeah.
They can argue for their own budget. That's a con.
Okay, they've told me many times that they're not allowed to.
All
Okay.
they gotta do is put it in their budget.
They gotta argue for their own budget and justify that budget.
Well, I guess maybe they're saying that they're not allowed to lobby to fund the act in general.
I can just tell you, for me at CCI, I talk about the program and the weeds all the time in our county.
And what are their responses? Do they see it?
Some do, some don't.
A lot of counties don't have that.
A lot of the rural counties see it,
Yeah.
but the big five don't. It's all concrete and asphalt, and they really control everything. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality. The big five in the Front Range, which is typically concrete and asphalt. So it's tough. But as far as your last bullet point is, as far as vocal support, I'm going to tell you, for me, you have a lot of vocal support. And like I said, you guys know me. I'm the biggest weed hater around here. I hate them. And I think it's horrible for stewardship, even specifically a vacant property owner. It's like, come on, if you own a piece of property, you should at least know what's on there. But anyway, I think we're doing a good job. I wish we had more funding because we could do a lot more. The issue is that every year with our costs, just like your cost, things rise, and the two arrows of your costs are going up and your revenue goes down, doesn't work. So at the end of the day, you got to figure out, okay, what am I willing to fund and what am I willing not to fund?
Well, and I guess this is the choice that, I'm not envious of your position at all. That, of trying to balance budgets and make things happen, and I know every department is concerned about, how are we gonna make all this stuff happen? And I guess my feeling is, we've invested so much time and money. I hate to see us go backwards.
Sure.
We've got to find a way to at least maintain status quo. Or else in 1 year, we could lose 2-3 years worth of investment. I hate to put a number on it. It is hard to say. We've got all this weed pressure coming in from the adjoining counties, and I know Bonnie's as emphasized many times, and we've got to get the other counties helping us. We can't, there isn't an invisible fence at the county line there that's gonna stop this. You know, when we've got this pressure coming from the other counties, it makes it, you know, additionally difficult for us to maintain what we've got. And so you know, we've got to get some cooperation on a bigger scale too. And I think that, I know for my part, you know, we need to, you know, get the Colorado Department of Agriculture on board to start helping the counties, you know, for whatever way they can, whether even it's just educational materials, whatever, but we've got to do, you know, we've got to maintain the quality we've got, and I just really hate to see us go backwards.
And while I'm thinking, I don't know if this is a can of worms we want to open right now. One of the causes to noxious weed issues specific to our area is CRP. There's no authoritative person, you know, making sure they're upholding their CRP requirements, so that land is just covered in noxious weeds and it's spreading. And there's no incentive for the landowner to do anything because they're already getting paid for that land. And I know Steve ran into this when he was with High Desert Conservation District, but I really think that's a problem that needs to be solved. Personally, I also think the ag designations of properties needs to be addressed because a lot of these properties can't even support an animal. They have to feed hay because the land is so used and abused, but they're not paying property taxes, so there's really no incentive for them to get the land back up and healthy again. That's just kind of my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, the CRP deal is an issue, and that was supposed to be a binding contract with the landowners and the federal government. It isn't. No, and if apparently, I mean, if it's the state of the feds, one's dropping the ball on that deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I can get some more information on the CRP stuff from you guys, and the next time I'll be in Denver, October 6th, I think, the 6th, is our first meeting starting back for the fall session, and I'll be as loud and as vocal as I can.
Appreciate it.
And that's, but here again, I'm one guy.
And I'm just, yeah, I'm one person too.
Well, and I know, speaking for myself, and I think the rest of the weed board, that if there's something that we can do, you know, to stress the importance of this, I'm sure we're on board with that too. I think the CRP thing has always been, you know, like when I was with the Conservation District and with FSA and NRCS, you know, there was always this struggle of who's going to take care of this. Well, it's not ours, and there was just no definition. And so, but I think that's something that can be addressed for sure, and we probably ought to take a look at addressing that and just saying, hey, you know, this is part of that contract.
I'll have another
So
conversation.
They just quit enforcing that?
I don't think they ever really did.
Well, there was a
They
struggle
used to.
between,
They used to.
they used to, but there was a struggle between NRCS and FSA as to, well, we provide the funding, you provide the tech support. And it's like, well, we don't have the time for the tech support, it's your program. And it was this tennis ball getting batted back and forth.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, maybe we need to jump on it. You know, there's a lot of CRP ground out there.
And I mean, I talk about different impacts all the time, and he stressed some, but I think fire hazard is a significant one for the drought that we've been in. And if you look at that CRP land, huge fire hazard. So take that economic impact, well, that is an economic impact, but it's also a bunch of other impacts of the fire hazard that's causing out there. Pleasant View out east of 491 is where it mainly is.
So, I see that I've got Senator Hickenlooper's aides that just jumped in the room, and I'm not cutting you guys off at all, so if I can just have you sit tight and we'll finish this conversation. But I think we're just gonna get introduced to Miss Lisa Poole. So if you can give me just a few minutes, and I'm gonna let them come in so that they can get on. I know they have some doctor's appointments after this, so just hang tight and I'll get them in and out.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys. All right, Helen, it's all
right.
yours.
Great. I'm so sorry we're not there in person. I was texting Jim. I had a nice eye infection this last week and have my mandatory follow-up at 3 o'clock. So I'm really sorry that we're not there in person. And I think that's Bonnie if I jumped in at the right time about noxious weeds. So it's good to see y'all too. And I had a couple of really quick announcements and mostly just wanted to introduce you to the person sitting to my left who is one of my favorite people ever and a total win for John Hickenlooper's office and for the region to have her hopping in as our new Southwest Regional Director. Just as a note, Lisa's going to talk a little bit about CDS, but Bonnie and everybody who's been working on the noxious weed issue, I know that we weren't able to get that request in the draft bill again, and just want to recognize the importance of Jim. I've heard you say, Commissioner, I've heard you say a number of times, like we need to tackle the water issue, and this is like a great way to address it on the ground. So really appreciate your work, and I'm happy to continue to work alongside you to figure out if there are other funding opportunities directly from the federal government to get on the ground. Always happy to navigate that and see if we can write letters of support or discover what else might be possible outside of congressionally directed spending. So it's good to see y'all. Quick note from me, I have my doctor's appointment today, and then on Thursday I stick my 70-pound shepherd in my car for a 32-hour cross-country trip to join Senator Hickenlooper's DC office on our legislative team. So I think I've gotten enough condolences on that move for now, but really excited to be joining his team. I'm going to be hopping on in largely kind of a money role. So working on his appropriations portfolio, overseeing the congressionally directed spending request process statewide, and then also focusing on funding implementation between the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. So a lot of those dollars that have already started hitting the ground throughout Southwest Colorado, and making sure that Colorado as a full is receiving our fair share as a state, but particularly focusing on rural communities will be my directive from the senator. So very, very happy to be able to continue with the team. Thrilled to be able to continue working with you all in this updated role. And Lisa, who is really the best, is going to be your updated point of contact for everything on the ground. So you'll see her at Region 9 meetings and TPR meetings and at your county commissioner meetings moving forward. So I'll hand it over to Lisa. She has a couple of really, really brief announcements, and then we won't take up too much of your time. But good to see you in the room. I'm sorry we're not there in person though.
That's okay.
Thanks,
Like I
Helen.
said, you'll get a pass.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. And then you'll have a requirement to bug me when you're in DC next, so that I get to say hello at the very least. But
All
good
right.
to see y'all again.
And so nice to meet you all. First, just want to acknowledge that today is September 11th, and our office is attending memorial events around the state. But thanks for having us today. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person soon. So as the new Southwest Regional Director for Senator Hickenlooper, I'm looking forward to working with you all. I've lived in Durango for 7 years, and I'm raising my family here. My family and I have really loved this entire region, and so I'm just really looking forward to getting to know Montezuma County's priorities on a deeper level. As Helen said, just some top line updates for now. We can dive in deeper down the line, but I'm aware that you have one CDS request submitted for next year, $50,000 for securing police and emergency communications. The Pinion Project also has a request included in the draft bill for funding a supportive housing project. We make sure to monitor housing projects as we know access to housing and just affordable housing are important issues in order to help families and businesses thrive in Montezuma County. We're all reading in the headlines that Congress won't reach a full agreement on next year's budget by the end of this month. So our best guess is what happened last year will likely happen again this year. So Congress passes a continuing resolution to keep last year's funding in place, and then they will reach some compromises and come out with next year's budget sometime in mid-December. And that's likely when we will hear which CDS requests will be funded. So if we hear any news sooner about your CDS request, you'll be the first to know. And again, all that is our best guess. We wish we had a crystal ball. I wanted to thank you all for your active involvement in and support of the Dolores River MCA Act. Our office is in full collaboration with Senator Bennett's office on this effort. And as you likely know, Senator Hickenlooper is on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. So we are expecting a committee markup soon, and we're feeling optimistic about it. We know that the city of Cortez secured over $825,000 of RAISE grant funding. So I am excited to hear an update on how the implementation of the feasibility study is going. And then just as a note, when the priority projects are identified, that will be a great time to reach out to our office to see how we can be supportive of next steps. So Helen has briefed me on the ongoing collaboration between our office and Montezuma County. It is my second week on the job, so actually like fifth day on the job. So I'm excited to hear about all the priority items, all the projects that that you all are working on. But for now, I would just love to hear if anyone has one or two priority items that you want to flag that we should be aware of and bring back to the senator. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, and recognize that that we just had time for an introduction potentially. So if you all want to circle back around for a briefing for Lisa as well, happy to. Lisa will be excited to drive over there when she's not at the whim of my eye appointments also. So whatever works best for you. If we have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that's great now, or else we can definitely find another time.
I think we have 5 minutes right now if you guys have any questions. But the first thing I have for you, Lisa, and so Helen was so kind to share her personal cell phone number with me, and I use it all the time. Obviously, you can see that we were texting back and forth before this meeting. Helen, if you'd give mine to Lisa, and if you feel, if it's appropriate, I would love to have yours, because there's a lot of times that I'm in meetings just as you are, and sometimes the text will get through that we can communicate with if it's something important. I would really appreciate that, number one. And number two,
Happy
for
to
me,
do that.
Part of this conversation that we're having right here today is, one of our priorities, and to my left, Commissioner Copenhaver works on the water all the time. Well, getting rid of noxious weeds is part of one of the issues why we put the CDS in, is because to save water, if we get rid of some of these noxious weeds and these phreatophytes, we're actually saving the water. So I'm never going to stop talking about this funding. And I think it should be a federal level and a state level, and if it's a priority, we need to be able to make that a priority. So, Helen, I hope you can take that back to Senator Hickenlooper in Washington.
Yeah, certainly. And Commissioner, I think I had shared this with you all potentially at the last time I was at the board meeting, but and Bonnie, I might have called you directly about this when we were going through all of the projects in terms of what was going to be requested. You all know that we put in that request, and it sometimes feels like it goes into a black box and we don't know what comes out the other side. Out of all of the requests statewide, I think we spent the most amount of time talking about that particular request as really a passion and thorough understanding of the senators. He really raised that one up as a priority project. So, which was surprising to me because I just didn't know about that background of his. So, you really have an advocate out of Senator Hickenlooper, and he taught me a lot during that conversation, more than what I had gained from even the application itself. So we'll definitely continue to raise it as an issue and see what kind of opportunities might become available through some of the water funding as we see come down the gate from the federal to the state level.
And I really appreciate that, Helen. The last real question I have for you, Lisa, is can you handle a paddle as well as Lisa, or as well as Helen does?
Great question.
A paddle?
Curious.
Yeah, we went on the rafting trip. So I borrowed Lisa's splash
Oh,
top. Lisa is an excellent rower. Her husband was a guide, right?
Yeah, husband was a raft guide for 8 years, so he's
great.
taught me things too.
Awesome. Well,
So
then,
the answer is yes, she could school us all, I bet.
okay, well, then the second one is, how well do you cook dinners for us as we're done paddling?
Better than me, probably, also. But I don't know if she can handle the bottle of whiskey as well as I did. So
Helen is better at that.
Well, it's great to see you guys, and I do just want to say how much I've appreciated getting in the commissioning office with you all and working so collaboratively over the last close to 3 years now. So excited to continue my relationship with you all, and it is really just a +1 huge win to have Lisa representing the region for Senator Hickenlooper also. So thrilled to have her on board.
All right. Good.
Yeah, well, the only thing I would break up, if you really want to work on something really difficult, is security of rural hospitals in our neck of the woods keeps rising its little head every now and then.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We had such a hard time hearing you. Will you say that one more time?
We'll try this. How's that?
Much
Great.
better.
Okay, the security of our rural hospitals keeps rearing its ugly head every now and then. And if there's something you guys could do up there in Washington to help us out, I know it'd be appreciated by a lot of rural communities.
Commissioner, you said rural hospitals.
Correct. Rural hospitals. Yep.
Yeah, we are doing a ton of work in this space. So maybe the next time Lisa comes in, or you guys are able to set up a meeting together to go over a handful of different initiatives and bills that we're working on. There's one specific competitive grants program that he's working on setting up through a bill specific to rural hospital systems that we discussed in pretty recently over in Pagosa Springs with the Pagosa Springs Medical Center there. So we'll happy to get you more information and send info as you will. Just as a note, also our office has worked really closely with Joe Thine, who's now at Southwest Memorial. So over from Animas Surgical prior, and he is really good at his work. So I was thrilled to see the news and just want to share that we've worked very closely with him. He's on the board of the Western Health Alliance as well, and brings in a huge wealth of knowledge around rural healthcare systems as a whole. So we'll continue to work with him and you all directly, and we can get info over to you about some of the competitive grant opportunities that the center is hoping to stand up specific to rural hospital systems. Definitely a big focus of the office right now.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate it. Go take care of your concerns, and you can actually make it back there in about 28 hours, Helen.
Oh, maybe I could hire you to drive then. I do have a triazepam for my dog to knock her out, so hopefully it'll be a quicker ride rather than a longer ride.
All right.
We'll see. Awesome. Great to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. You used to make it back in 24, right, Ian?
Never made it that quick.
Oh. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now we'll go back to finish up our conversation. I think, one of the things, you asked, Steve, what can you all be doing? And I don't know. I wish I had that crystal ball because, one, I'd like to see more applicators. Like you said, Eddie, we're getting all of us getting older. And, how do we encourage youth to take over some of this application? Because, think about it, in the next 5 years, 10 years, we may not be working at all. How do we energize that into some of the youth to be able to take care of that and to understand the importance of it? Just a question. I don't know if you have any kind of an answer to that or not.
I think a lot of this, it boils down to land stewardship. And, whether it's noxious weeds, whether it's, your fencing, your whatever, it's the land stewardship. And that gets back to the property rights. Everybody's, very concerned about maintaining their property rights, and I am too. But I think we can maintain our property rights and also be a good neighbor. And so I think just encouraging that stewardship in everything we do, I think like our roadsides are so much better. I think the program that Bonnie put together on the roadsides, and I think we'll all can see, just like having that clear 3-foot band along the edges of the chip seal and the asphalt is saving the roads. And by keeping those roadsides clean, and I know half the budget is road budget and half of it's general fund budget, but I think that roadside thing is really demonstrating what can be done. And I think we just need to keep tooting our horn, as to how well some of these products work without really impacting. People are hesitant to use chemicals, and I understand that. I don't use chemicals unless I have to, but there's times when you have to use them. Mm-hmm. And I think that, dealing with the land stewardship, and not having what I call weedettes, that, a 3-acre patch, a 5-acre patch is really hard to deal with. It's not enough for grazing, it's not enough, but everybody wants their space. But we just need to encourage the land stewardship, that bare ground just promotes, the invasion of the most opportunistic plant, which just happens to be our kochia and our white top, our knapweed. I think, it's just, it's like the CRP ground. It's all the same. And so I think we just need to really encourage that land stewardship. I know right now that both the High Desert Conservation District and the Mancos Conservation District are combining and doing I think it's a 9-week class on land stewardship. And, it's been successful. They do it every other year. And it's well attended. And I think just constantly reminding people that it's not only good for you, it's good for your neighbor, that we continue to monitor our properties. And I just think we just have to kind of keep after that all the time. And I think one of the rewards of doing that is like the cost share program. The backpack program. It's one of those things that I think we need to keep available. And I guess I better get off my soapbox.
You touched on a point, the 3 to 5 acre lots. Some of those, they're so big that a backpack, you're going to be out there for a long time. And it's too small for a great big, field applicator. So you're looking for that in between, I guess. and I don't know what that'd be.
It's a difficult thing.
Joe and Eddie.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And I'm going to chime
That-
in real quick. Sorry. Can I say something really quick?
I was gonna say that's what we do, and I did hear your challenge there. That's probably something that Bonnie and Joe and I need to kind of barnstorm about, put our heads together and try to find some younger folks that would be trainable and interested in going into that. So we'll talk about that.
I think that's what everybody faces right now, trying to
It
get
is.
people who actually want to
It
work
really
and
is.
We're all facing that, so you're not in a unique position at all. and
fair
I-
weather
and I-
workers.
Trust me, I appreciate everything you guys do. I call you guys all the time, because I wish I could just deal with what I had to deal with the backpack sprayer, but unfortunately,
Eventually you will. Just keep after it. But I was just going to say, we're kind of in a sensitive situation in Montezuma County. Our soils are very fragile, and with the drought coupled over it, our land just can't handle a lot that the eastern plains can with all the rain. Our land can't handle as much livestock that it's actually withdrawing right now. And a lot of people don't understand that. They want to make some money. They get a bunch of horses, cows, what have you, livestock. And it's just, our land can't bounce back yet. So I think that's a huge impact. And I think that's something Emily Lockhart is working on, along with the conservation districts, is just good land management, grazing. You know, it's just the natives don't bounce back like they used to. And then any kind of disturbance will just follow in noxious weeds. It's just what I was going to say.
okay. I think you gave us a challenge, and I gave you one right back, Eddie.
Well, I appreciate the time and your interest and concern, and we need to keep the channels open. I don't, not to say that they haven't been open, but I think we need to continue working on this, and you know, as the months go on, we'll just keep plugging away at it, and hopefully we can maintain what we've got. Have you got anything else to say, Bonnie?
Maintain what we got, but I also think it's important to look at the big picture too and try to promote other counties to take more measures, because we are dealing with, we're right next to an epicenter of spotted knapweed, and we've worked so hard in Montezuma County to get it to the point of eradication, and it's just coming this way.
So would you give me the data that I can present to the La Plata County Commissioners? I assume that's who you're talking about, because we actually work with them quite frequently. And I can actually give them some more information. All we can do is pass it along. What they can or cannot do then is up to them.
Yeah, and then if we put pressure on them, maybe they'll put more pressure higher up, like we're trying to as well. But the more people that stand up, the better. But yeah. All I got.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys.
Joe, you
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Back at it. Wind's not blowing.
Go kill some weeds, boys.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, we have completed our workshop. That was all that is on the agenda, unless, Ian, you want to add something?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right, well, gentlemen, we are done for September 11th, 2023. Thank you all.